What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the altar again, and this time we return with Andy of Thy Art is Murder. It is great to be able to talk with you. Thanks for being here, man.
It's nice being here, and you know what? You're actually at an altar, so now I can see it for the first time. It's pretty crazy.
Thanks. As you can tell, I listen to a lot of black metal. It's so awesome to have you here. So, the latest single that we have ever heard from Thy Art is Murder in the recent years was Killing Season. That was the last thing we've heard since Human Target. What could we be expecting from Thy Art is Murder in terms of new music coming out? Are you going to continue sort of in a similar vein of Human Target, or are you going to be approaching a lot more uncharted territory with this one?
I don't even know how to describe it, really. I mean, so the only reason we kind of threw out, or gave everyone, not threw out like threw away, but like put into the universe was like cut that COVID thing. So we'd done Human Target in, I think it came out in the middle of 2019. And then, 9 months later, everything shut down. We're like, well, yeah, now what? So we had this project that we'd had Killing Season set aside for, where the idea was like to do like a little project that kind of harkened back to a more aggressive sound that was more in line with like the origin of the band, where we've kind of, I wouldn't say graduated, but morphed into, I think that we try to write pop structure metal songs these days. I don't know. Maybe people would say that. That's how we think about it anyway. So we're trying to do something way more brutal, and that was just going to be a one-off thing. Obviously, COVID happened, so we just put it out because we had nothing better to do, and we wanted people to have something to enjoy. So moving forward now, it's been so bloody long. We made Killing Season at the end of that Cannibal Corpse tour in 2019. So we've just put together a whole new record over the last 3 months, which I don't even know what it sounds like. I mean, I know what it sounds like, but I don't know what you'd call it. And we've got an EP coming out quite soon. So we've got like a lot of music planned for the next 18 months. And no, I can't give an answer as to what it sounds like because I've got no bloody idea.
No worries, no worries. But it's funny you mentioned that too, because you wanted Killing Season to be a more brutal aspect. But I've always thought that Thy Art is Murder. You have that sort of like pop structure metal song sometimes with like a verse chorus. Like I think that's very evident with a song like Puppet Master or the title track of Dear Desolation. But with a song like They Will Know Another, I mean that's almost doomy in a way. So it almost seems like you have been able to sort of like experiment a little bit more in your brutality, right?
Yeah, I mean, that particular song is one of my favorite songs we've ever created. We do walk on this line of incorporating elements that we are truly fans of and love and would love to make. Most bands would love to just make some weird esoteric combination of all their influences, but it might not be very coherent. So we do try that generally on most records, from like say track 5 through to 10. We'll try and throw in a few things where we're like, this is our art that we really desperately want to make. And sometimes it comes off good. And I think They Will Know Another was a thing where the stars aligned and Sean and I got together and we made something that we both really love. There's a song on this new EP that's coming out I've showed to a couple of friends, and they're like, oh, this is kind of like They Will Know Another as well. I'm like, I don't really see it, but, a little bit more different elements combined in the into the song structure and the writing.
I think
And
I think I've seen you on every North American tour since that song has come out, and I'm waiting for you to play it live.
well, there's a story about that. We did rehearse to play it live starting at the start of 2018. The problem that we have is it's a different key for us, like music theory wise. It's kind of down like a couple of steps. So when you try to play a breakdown on the open, it's like the wrong note. So in the studio, we just tuned the guitar to a different tuning for just that bit, and we couldn't figure out how to do it live. But we're working on it.
Okay.
There's a way that we can do that. So I'm hoping, when we get down cycle into this new record, we'll be able to bring that one out finally for the fans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have your very dedicated fan base. You're always going to have that one fan who wants like a deep cut off of this hole isn't deep enough for the 12 of you, so, like demo era, right? So
I can tell you that's never going to happen.
Yeah, right. Never say never. Never say never. Yeah. Um, but when you enter the songwriting process, does it ever start off with a preconceived idea in a way? Because I thought like an album such as Hate was a little bit more like hardcore influence, whereas an album like Holy War has a little bit more technical elements into it as well. So does it ever start off with a preconceived vision, or does it just kind of thrown down like that?
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's just kind of by accident. So with Holy War, we just done the album Hate a few years before. I think there was just shy of 3 years between the records coming out, and in that time we toured more than we ever had. That album Hate kind of really broke the band into international markets, and we must have done some 400 or 500 shows around the world touring it, and we'd never played that many shows in our whole lives before. So to go from not playing that many shows to that many in such a short amount of time for us, I think improved our technical proficiency. So just as a byproduct of that, um, playing more guitar all the time on the road lent to the guitar playing being a little bit more death metal and technical. Whereas before, we're playing one show every couple of months. So, um, but otherwise, yeah, there frequently are. Whether or not we accomplish those preconceived notions, we will often write funny names for a song to write. So we'll look at a record and maybe we have a few songs that just come out of our brains, which is also common.
Yeah.
You might just be singing a riff in the store and
I
go
keep
home and be like, I have to record this right away.
I keep thinking that
But
Puppet Master is a plague on both your houses. That's the title of that song. But you were saying
Puppet
so.
Master just was funny.
Yeah.
Sean just had this riff and we kind of did it and we lent into it a lot. We're like, oh, okay. It definitely sounds like a little bit Lamb of God, so we're just going to commit to doing that. But otherwise, yeah, we make the song titles. We'll say this one needs to be Shreddy Tech Death 1. This one's Shreddy Tech Death 2. We have melodic, sad, moody death metal has also been a song title. So we name what we need to create, what we feel is missing from our bunch of songs for a record, and then we try to write them.
Well, the collaborative efforts between you and CJ is a real like match made in heaven or hell, whatever's more metal. But the way that you combined your talents together, I think, is what makes a Thy Art Is Murder song a Thy Art Is Murder song. I know that CJ does put a lot of his heart and emotions into the lyricism of the band. So has he ever approached you with a lyrical concept that could help guide your hand with regards to how you play?
Not with like playing the music necessarily. Like Sean and I and Will Putney, our producer, we get together and put the music together, and then normally Will and I assemble the lyrics. And I'm always asking for ideas, and CJ has lots of ideas, so he'll come with something that he wants to say but doesn't know how to put the words into the music for it necessarily, and then we'll work on an idea for him and say, all right, well, you wanted a song about this, we think this is it. And he's like, yes, this is it. Because he wants to understand what the song might be about so he can emote the lyric correctly, I think, or like correct to him, which is why he does so many crazy sounds. I don't know if you noticed that he does these weird things where he sounds like he's Eastern European, and he definitely isn't. But he loves doing all that crazy shit. But we definitely do think about the lyric a lot, and I would argue, I don't know how other bands put their music together, but at least for us in a sort of death metal paradigm, we spend an inordinate amount of time thinking about the vocal. Whereas I think for a lot of death metal, the vocal might just be another instrument and it's chaos and it's brutal and the song exists, and then they just get the vocal and they just make it up and put it over the top. We will go back and chop and change things to make sure that there's space for his vocal to kind of be dynamic in the cut of the song, whether it's in the verse or the chorus or the breakdown, and go, everything is really good, but when he sings it, like the music is kind of distracting from the vocal, and we'll go, it's a great riff or a great part, but we're going to change it now because we need him up the front at this part of the song. I don't know if other bands do that, but it's super important to us. I think it might be why people gravitate to the band. I like to think it is anyway,
Yeah.
because we're trying to communicate with them through the lyrics and the songwriting, and they're able to, get something out of it, as opposed to it just being this wall of sound always.
I'm so glad to hear you say that because it is something that I've noticed. Circling back to Puppet Master again, I think it's a good example of that because the way that the vocals flow so much to like, go very choppy at first and then go to terror forever and then it sustains for a second and then it just goes kind of chopped again and then flows again. So it's really interesting. It almost seems like that the vocals in Thy Art is Murder convey just as much rhythm and groove as the instrumentation.
100%. 100%. We spend so much time on it, months.
It pays off, I must say. Um, for your writing style, though, when it comes to thinking of riffs and different ideas, do you find it maybe easier to come up with ideas when you're more alone in isolation, when there's nothing between you and your instrument, or do you like to be in the company of Sean and CJ and even Will Putney to really help cultivate ideas even easier?
It's been a combination over the years, I would say. And I don't want to say that there's any correlation between how they're put together and the quality of the song. It's just the luck of the draw. And I think it's one of the most magical things about making music is we're not really making it. It's like the universe sends it into your brain, not to get too hippie, but like you have no control over how your mind works. I mean, you can try to, but that was already this predetermined like series of events when you were born. Like my brain is this wired this way, and with you know, there's not much you can do to change it. I mean, maybe you can do heaps of drugs or psychedelics or something to alter your the way your brain works, but ideas come to us. We can try to foster an environment where they can come to us better or worse. Um, but ultimately, Puppet Master Sean just started playing it, just jamming some riff. And we sat there and we go, that's really cool. There's Death Squad Anthem. I was walking around the supermarket with my partner, just going, da, 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 just getting pissed off, going, I want to go home. This is boring. And then I was like, oh my God, that's a riff. Like, I got to go. And she's like, what? I'm like, I'm going home right now. I just walked home from the supermarket by myself and recorded the riff. But we do like to spend a lot of time together. Most of the records, at least 50% of the music and almost all of the assembly of like taking parts and together thinking about it is Sean, Will, and I. And normally that happens over the course of maybe 2 weeks. And now we've got Jesse in the band for the last 5 years. Having his input as a pretty serious drummer is also really fun because he's like, "Ah." He's got this weird drummer brain. He's like, I want to do it like this. And we're like, okay, we would not do that in the interest of doing things we've never done before. Let's explore his avenue now as like a percussion led section of the song, as whereas normally we're just guitar focused.
Yeah. Well, it's so like interesting to hear you say that. A lot of times with a lot of bands I've interviewed, when I ask how a song starts off with, and it could be any genre, whether it would be like a rock band or a death metal band or black metal or metalcore, they say a lot of times it starts off with a riff. But it seems like for Thy Art is Murder, you're almost able to approach a song from any different angle.
So, oh, dude, absolutely. So many different approaches, which is also exciting for us. It would be boring if I just sat in this room by myself making music without the rest of the boys. And this, I think the same for Sean. He would get bored if he had to do it by himself. Also, we're lazy, so we wouldn't do it unless someone else was there and we felt bad. What Sean and I will normally do is when we have those things I was explaining before, we'll be like moody, melodic, sad, depressive metal song. We'll take turns and just sit in the seat here or at Will's or at Sean's and take 15 minutes. It's like, all right, 15 minutes, you go, start making riffs.
Wow.
And then one will just jam and the other one will observe and be like, nah, change it. And then we have a timer or we quit and it's switch roles. And then the other one says, play the riff like this. And, it's one of life's great joys for me, at least, is being able to make stuff that you like and fans like together with some of your best friends.
Yeah. But I'd imagine also there's times where inspiration strikes at the most inconvenient of times, right?
Mm. Yeah, and you have no control over that. I mean, we try to think that we do and say, oh, we made all of this. It just happens sometimes. And either you got to do it or you're at a party and you're sitting there just going, well, I can't leave now. So hopefully I remember this tomorrow. I think about it all the time. I go, what great songs have nearly been written by, not by us, but like the Beatles, and this person is like someone gave them a phone call and they forgot it.
Yeah.
So many great songs have just disappeared into the into the air.
I like to think that that's where we go in rock and roll heaven, the realm of forgotten riffs.
I mean, I'd like to have remembered riffs, but yeah, maybe we'll just be forgotten riffs in about 50 years.
Fair enough. Fair enough. When it comes to playing live for Thy Art is Murder, I've seen Thy Art is Murder many, many times now, but it's always been a very different experience. And I mean that in a good way because sometimes it's a different sized venue. Like one time I saw you play at Gramercy Theater, which is like a 600 cap venue, but then I saw you play at Warsaw with Cannibal Corpse, and that is a much bigger stage setup. So, like, depending on the venue as well as the tour package that you're on, because you play with a variety of different bands, have you noticed that does the aesthetic or the experience of a Thy Artist Murder show feel different for you as much as it could feel different for me?
Oh, absolutely, totally. They feel different. There's something very primal that we, at least I'm pretty sure we all in the band love, and that's small club shows. That's what we grew up playing before we were in like a, I guess, if you want to call us a big band nowadays, playing small 100 to 200 cap rooms where you're on the floor, the audience is in your face, and particularly because we play an aggressive brand of music, like that lends to the performance, I think, too. The crowd are like involved in the performance physically. Whereas if they were just all sitting on the floor like at a comedy show in seats, you'd kind of it wouldn't increase the adrenaline for the band. As we've gotten bigger and we've played a lot of these bigger stages or bigger venues, you have to move or adjust like the way that you're trying to perform because this involvement from the crowd is so distant from the band. And sometimes we like it because we can have a bigger show with more lights and whatnot, and sometimes it's a bit like disconnected, I guess, especially if you're on like a support tour where you're playing with bands that maybe your fans aren't into, and so their fans are there and they're watching us doing something crazy, and CJ's doing backflips and talking about, I don't know, crocodiles and koalas and whatnot. It can be a bit weird, but we love all the shows, and I think playing a lot of shows has rounded us over the years. We're a little bit more professional, even
Well,
though we're the least professional band ever.
the most professional unprofessional band, I think, is the best way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We're still hobbyists.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, I just think it's the way that you channel so much energy, and you definitely have mastered the art of chaos, I would say, with your live shows as somebody who would see you in a smaller club and somebody who would see you like on a bigger stage. I wouldn't say that like it's more disconnected on a bigger stage. I would just say it's a different type of experience. I think that with a bigger show like at Gramercy or Warsaw, you get more of kind of like an atmosphere. I think you're able to kind of turn the venue into an alternate reality in a way.
Yeah, I mean, that has become a challenge also, how to create that environment. I don't know if you remember, but at that Warsaw show in Brooklyn 2019, CJ just got into the crowd. That was his way of crossing that gap that sometimes occurs at the bigger venues, but giving us the opportunity. I mean, biggest shows means hopefully we get paid a little bit more money, which means we can spend more money on like creating that immersive experience for the audience, whether it be through lights or pyro or different, hazing or smoke machines. People probably think of them as like all those extra things that before it was just like five guys walk onto a stage, which is 1 foot off the ground, and you're right there. That's immersive. As it gets bigger, it becomes more difficult to create that experience, and so we have to do it through other things. So maybe we should get some candles like your altar, and
I got
make it
like
really twisted.
I got 80 of them in my closets. I'm happy to let you borrow them for a New York show.
Yeah. Look, if you want to deliver them to me in New Jersey in about a week and a half, like we'll take them on the road.
Maybe. I live in New York City. I'm 4 blocks away from the Gramercy, so maybe we can meet halfway.
Nice.
Yep.
That's a great location.
Damn right it is. And I consider Jersey to be the sixth borough anyway at this point, so. Yeah.
Yeah, at this point I'm a Jersey local, so I'm kind of loyal to the Taylor ham roll in the morning.
The Garden State. You got to write a New Jersey. Got to write a New Jersey like inspired deathcore song. Maybe get the guys from God Forbid for a collaboration. Actually, make that something.
They're coming back, I think.
They are.
Did
They are
show
back.
the other week.
Yeah, they did a show at
Yeah.
Starland recently. I didn't get to go, but it was awesome.
Yeah, so now New Jersey's got what? Is it Bon Jovi and God Forbid and E-Town?
Yeah, My Chemical Romance too.
Oh my! The place where we made all of our records up until this most recent one used to be My Chemical Romance's rehearsal space.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Belleville.
Oh, wow. That's an
Like
interesting.
their full studio for years, and then they, I guess, went on their hiatus and didn't need it anymore, and we scooped in there and started making records.
Wow. That's an awesome story. That's a great little piece of thy art history.
Not a lot of people know it. This record producer Machine, I guess, took over the lease, and Will used to be his assistant 15 years ago, and then Will took over the place, and we started making our records there.
That's awesome. I'm so glad I
And I
got
love
to.
Mike M, so I mean, it's not very metal to say, but
I grew up with that shit. I saw the reunion tour 4 times this year. So
oh my god, I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
This mate of mine sold merch for them. I was like, I hate you.
yeah, I envy that too. Um, before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and thank you so much for coming back on the show for such an awesome chat. Is there just anything else with Thy Art Is Murdered you would like to promote? You mentioned that there is some new music in the works, and I know that you got this upcoming tour going on. What else could we be expecting from Thy Art, if you're allowed to say, of course?
We can say whatever we want. There's nothing crazy, really. We got new music coming out in the next, I want to say, 2 months. It's a project that we've been working on together with some friends for years, and it's just been pushed back, obviously, due to COVID. And then, I'll figure out the timing, but we'll start rolling out new records sometime this year.
Hell yeah.
Maybe the next 3 or 4 months. So I'm excited. It's a bit different for us, so I hope people are along for the ride.
Yeah, definitely. Human Target was awesome. Dear Desolation was awesome. Holy War was awesome. You guys have been on a great momentum. We're looking forward to hearing more.
All right, well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, anytime, man. Anytime. Everybody, we are here with Thy Art Is Murder. Be sure to catch them on their upcoming North American tour. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
Smell you later.